next recipe, like I said, so for some people going through treatment, they may experience nausea. Okay, so basically that's like the feeling of wanting to throw up from smells or food, etc. So it is a common side effect. And like I said, certain smells could trigger that feeling. Okay, so making sure that you have simple, plain, dry foods is one way to help alleviate that. But also having liquids that have ginger, okay, or ginger in general. It's an old remedy that we found that people tend to find that this helps make their nausea a little bit better. So this recipe is also a kind of a take on a traditional soup, and specifically geared for those experiencing nausea.
Absolutely. So we're doing, a take on an egg drop soup. Now, there are different versions of this type of soup. Really what we're focusing on is making it very simple. It's really easy to make, especially if you're not feeling that well. Probably don't want to be spending too much time in the kitchen. You use a very simple broth. You can use a chicken stock or chicken broth or vegetable broth. And you can infuse that. Even if you're using a store-bought one, like a low-sodium one, you can absolutely use that. And we're going to infuse it with some other flavors that have that sort of that anti-nausea sort of property to it. So we're going to use some ginger, and we're going to use some lemon as well. And what I do is take the ginger, wash it well, and then just try to cut it in half, just like that. And then just throw the whole thing into your simmering pot. Nope. Lemon peel as well. Wash the lemon really well, and you just use a vegetable peeler. Just take the peel off, and then just kind of give it a twist. And what that's going to do is break up some of those cells, and you can smell that lemon oil. You can put a little bit on yourself if you want, and that's going to go and infuse the soup as well. So it's going to give it this like lemon, this ginger aroma, very, very light. If you want to put some onion or leek or celery, you can obviously add those items as well. Onion and garlic and those items might, produce aromas that might not be the greatest, especially if you have nausea. So that's completely up to you and optional.
Yeah. So really keeping things kind of like simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, like if you're hosting for somebody who's experiencing those symptoms, again, these are some things to kind of consider. And we're also using a soup because you're able to contain the smells, right? So you could leave a window open, again, to get the smell kind of out of the kitchen, out of the vicinity to help, again, to keep those symptoms at a minimum.
Absolutely. Use your lid as well as much as possible. It's going to help to keep some of those aromas down in there. So you can steep it. I don't love to give a number, so you can steep it for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's really until you taste it and it's at that level that you enjoy. If you want more ginger flavor, just let it steep longer. If it's at that point where you're okay, then you can go ahead and remove some of those items. And so we can put it back in after if we want, but for this part, we want to just take it out. Trying to fish for that lemon peel is always fun at the end. So found it. Yes. And so what we want to do is make sure that the soup or the broth, and this is a vegetable broth, is sort of simmering. So just gently simmering. I do not want a heavy boil on this, otherwise it won't work well. We'll give it a little stir, and we're going to add our little egg drop in it. It's also an Italian cooking. It's a traditional, it's called stracciatella soup, which means sort of like little shreds, right? And Chinese, yeah, egg drop soup as well. So very, very similar style, very simple, and it has a very simple broth, but it also has a little bit of that protein to give you energy, right, from the egg as well. And especially when it's with minus 90 outside, like today, has that sort of comfort in it. So the egg is, just whisk it up, and you can season it, maybe a little salt and pepper. Now, this would be more traditional in the Italian version of it. To add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. This is the way that my mom used to make it for me. This is optional as well.
Yeah.
Right?
So again, if you're really experiencing that nausea, you might want to keep things more bland.
Yes.
And not add the cheese.
Yeah. And again, it's just gonna flavor it up a little bit. And while your soup is simmering, all right, we're going to give it just a little spin so that the broth is moving. And as it's moving, we're going to slowly drop in and you can see it sort of, all these little shreds start to develop. And what this is going to do is it's going to hold its sort of form, the eggs. It's also going to help to clarify the soup itself. And you're going to find, even if you had like a slightly cloudy broth in there, it'll help to clear it up. This is traditionally how, not exactly like this, but using egg white is traditionally a way to make a consommé, very clear, clean consommes, because it acts as like a filter.
Yeah.
But then you remove the egg white afterwards, do you? Yeah.
Oh, in a consommé, yes, but not in this, right?
Yeah.
And so there we go. Very, very simple,
Yeah.
very easy.
Yeah, and another thing about this is you're adding some protein. So eggs are a really great way to boost up the nutritional quality of your food. So if you're experiencing nausea, you might not want to eat that much, so you really want to make sure that every bite counts. Another thing just to keep in mind, that if you are invited to a place and you're worried about feeling nauseous, it might be a good idea to maybe join your friends or family after the meal and go for tea or dessert, just so that you could still be there, but kind of being around food at for less amount of time.
And then right before serving, you can keep this warm. You can even refrigerate this, but if you're serving, you can keep it warm, and then right before serving, I add just a little bit of lemon juice. And I add a ton of parsley. Again, this is where you can add even Swiss chard if you want, or some other like hearty greens. It's really up to you. We're trying to keep it more on the simple end. But that's it. We're going to give that last stir. And trust me, for me, this is very, very, very much comfort soup.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's it. A little bit of the soup. And that's our ginger lemon egg
Yeah, nice.